Croeso I bysgota Cymru. Welcome to Fishing in Wales. Well, just look at this magnificent scenery around me. Isn't it beautiful? And what better place to be than out on the river on a fantastic morning like today. But this, you know what? It's a river with a bit of a difference. This is the River Taff, and would you believe it? We are smack bang in the middle of Cardiff city centre. Today, we're looking at urban rivers. Accessibility in cities is superb. Just on the other side here, we've got a big car park. There's a cricket club. You can park there. Little walk down onto this open access day ticket stretch, and we're fishing straight away. Now, this part of the river is well known to be pretty decent for grayling. I've got to say, standing in the water, it is freezing cold. My toes are really, really tingling. But there's loads of stretches up and down this bit that look very, very fishy for grayling. So I'm running a stick float down. And you can probably see just over my shoulder up there, that's my mate Kerry. He's running a fly through. So we've got two different styles of fishing, both fishing for the same type of fish at the moment. And we'll see what works, what happens. And you know what? If they're not here, we'll just disappear, have a little look somewhere else, because there's loads of places that we can go and fish in this city.
Yeah, so here we are fishing on the Taff this afternoon, North Cardiff. This is a cracking bit of river, and it's run by the Glamorgan Anglers Club, and they've got, you know, a good couple of miles of this part of the Taff, and it's full of grayling, also a wild brown trout, some huge barbel here. In fact, the Welsh record came from just downstream, which was over 18 pound. Good sized chub. We've got perch in here, we've got roach in here as well. So it's a really good mixed fishery, the lower Taff. And you can get your day tickets from a number of places, including Gary Evans' tackle shop, which again is about a mile downstream. But the Taff has got a brilliant head of grayling, like many rivers in Wales. It's a sign of really good water quality if you've got a good head of grayling. So obviously we've got the Taff. The Rumney is another post-industrial river, which is about 10 miles away. I mean, that's probably one of the best grayling rivers for sheer numbers in Wales. You've got the Dee up in North Wales, which that has huge numbers of grayling. Some of them up to £3 in fact, so it's really good for specimen-sized fish. The Upper River Severn, fantastic grayling fishery up there. We've also got the Wye, which, you know, with its tributaries, the Irvon and the Ethon. I mean, that is probably some of the best grayling fishing in the whole of Wales there. But you know, wherever you go in Wales, you're basically going to be quite close to grayling fishing. And you can fish them, of course, on the fly or with methods such as trotting.
Well, we've had a bit of a move and come to a slightly different place now. The river's a little bit deeper here, and you can see there's a lovely fast glide on that far side, a little bit more flatter, slightly flatter water here. And we're just at the back of the railway station. You might hear the train just about to go past. Literally, it's just on the other bank there. But to me, this looks like the sort of place that a grayling's going to be hanging out. So we'll just ping over there, and I'm just going to run down the edge of that bumpy water. I've got the float set quite heavy but quite high as well, because it does get a bit bumpy down there. And let's see if there's anything at home. Oh yes, straight away, look at that. And that's, that is genuine, that's first chuck. You don't miss them when they're here and they're in a pod. They just can't resist it. They'll be on it straight away, and that's one of the brilliant things about grayling fishing. When they're there, you can catch quite a few of them, and that was textbook, exactly where these fish should be. And reading the water is a massive part of grayling fishing, just working out where those fish are going to be. You can have a big pod in one place and have a field day, and you can just be a little bit out of the way of that, or just get not quite in the right place, and you don't catch anything at all. So, oh, he's not a bad fish actually. And one of the lovely things about this river is the average size of these fish as well. You know, there's lots of rivers that have got lots of grayling in, but when the year class is small, you can get lots of bites, but they're tiny little things. Otherwise, you get in some rivers that don't have many fish in, but they're big. But that's a lovely fish. That might be 3/4 of a pound. Absolutely brilliant start.
So while Rob is up there catching them on the float, I've rigged up with some flies here, a bit of proper fishing. And we're on a really nice grayling run here where it's kind of knee to waist deep, nice gravelly bottom in there. And I'm fishing with a Euro nymph setup. So I've got a 10-foot 3-weight rod. It's quite a soft parabolic action. Just had a take in. And it's rigged up with a French leader, which is a 8-metre length of monofilament. And I've got 2 very heavily weighted flies here, which are grayling bugs. These are tied on jig hooks, and I've put tungsten beads into these, which are really going to bounce them on the bottom. And I'm fishing a pair of flies there, so I'm actually covering slightly different depths. But the technique here is to fish a very short line, so I'm controlling the drift of the flies as they bounce along the bottom. Any sort of indication will show on this piece of coloured mono. If that twitches or stops, and I know a fish is taking the fly, and I'll lift into the fish and hopefully they'll stick. I mean, I've lost 2 actually already in this run, so fingers crossed for another one. So I'm pitching the flies slightly upstream, letting them sink, and then they're tracking around there just under the rod tip and swinging right through there. Obviously I don't want to get them skating around too quick, I just want to drift them through there so there isn't much drag on the flies, and they're drifting quite naturally then just above the bottom. It appears there is a pod of fish here, quite small fish, but a welcome fish nevertheless. So he's taken the top dropper, which is like a hare's ear type pattern with a UV rib. Obviously he's a fish for the future.
He's only a little one, look. But it shows us fish around. Oh, this is great as a sign for what's going on with the river in the future. You know, he's only a little one. Fly anglers call them shots. So we'll just pop him on there, he'll go back in again straight away. And it's lovely to see these small grayling coming through. But of course our target at the moment is to see if we can catch one of the bigger ones. And I genuinely think there might be a few around today. It's just absolutely glorious here. You know, it's a fine winter's morning. The last of the leaves are just falling off the trees and drifting downstream. But interestingly, we've just seen a fly hatch. There's some olives coming up as well, which means the water temperature's probably just risen a little bit, or the light levels are right, and the fish could well come on the feed properly in a moment. And I've got a bit of water that I really like the look of down here. Really, really do. So I'm just going to keep running this float through, but I'm going to show you what I'm doing at the moment. I've got a size 18 on, which might be a little bit small. Single maggot rather than a double maggot. And the reason I'm using a single is that if I go on a long trot further down there, when I'm reeling back in again, they spin a lot with a double and you get a lot of hook link twist. So if you are having trouble on a long trot, particularly in fast water like this, just go single rather than double. I've then got an SSG about probably 8-10 inches away from the hook itself. That's a big old chunk of weight, and the idea is get it down as quickly as possible. You can't afford to ferry around with stuff like this. You've got to get the bait down very quickly. I've got 2 number 4 and a BB a little bit higher up, probably halfway, not quite halfway towards the float. And then I've got a really, really big float, and look at that, it's like a lighthouse. This is an alloy Avon, and it's a 4 gram. Now 4 grams is actually quite a lot of weight, but what it does is it gives me an awful lot of control in this fast water down there, and I can get the float to where I want it, and I can get it to stay there because it's immensely stable. Just look at the shoulders on it. You know, you can get the smaller, lighter, finer stick floats. They're really nice to play with, but somewhere like this, particularly with the wind just now starting to pick up, I want something that will get in there, bed in and anchor in. So just feather it before it hits the water. That will now be fishing straight away rather than drifting down the current. Tip up just to keep that line off the water, and when I think it's bedded in nicely, I'm going to drop the rod, open the bail arm again and just follow it through the trot. There we are, down at the end of the trot. It's not going to go too far, maybe 10, 15, maximum 20. Back up again, back out. And I'm searching this little bit of river. There's a line here that we call a crease. And if you have a look at any river, you'll see that it's a living, breathing thing. And the crease is just where the edge of the moving water and the flat water is. And I think that's where these fish are likely to be, just on the back of the crease. Well, while I was stood up there, I noticed a couple of fish just rise down here, so I thought I'll come down and have a little go. And this is first chucked down, and lo and behold, double red maggot. Guess what? In again. And what's interesting is that it doesn't look like it's an obvious grayling peg. There's a little bit of a crease, but when you get down here, you can see that there's a stone just underwater. You won't be able to pick that up on camera, but a stone underwater, and that will hold fish. So we've got another one. But there we are, look. Red maggot was this one's downfall. She's wearing it on a peck as well. But that is the grayling. And if she'll just sit still for a moment, never worked with children and animals, eh? That is what makes them so famous, the old big dorsal fin. And if it comes to winter fishing, you know what, the grayling is such a magnificent creature. This is what, 10, 12 ounces. There or thereabouts, but actually maybe a little bit bigger than that, 12, 14 ounces maybe. But what a beautiful fish and what a beautiful place.
Discover fishing in Wales.